It's epic, but what a slow burn, man.
Yeah, it's epic, but not in the House of Dragon, Game of Thrones way we expect last episode to be.
Yeah.
The secret history of the Olympics, that the world of arts and culture were actually part of the Olympics.
And then there's examples of athletes who were there and kind of competing in sports and then coming back 20 years later as architects.
Yes.
To be like, hey, look at me, I'm still top of my game. It's a celebration of their friendship, which has just been put into a film, which is, cute.
Part of me thinks like maybe Robert Downey Jr. or somebody has been to the Middle East.
And they just know.
And they just know after a big, long night of doing whatever, you just want a shawarma.
Hi everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the finale of House of the Dragon.
And the long gone era of the fine arts in the Olympics.
And a delicious Easter egg in the Marvel universe. This Culture Bite is coming to you from the National News. I'm Farah Andrews.
And I'm Maan Jalal.
Hi.
Hello.
Are you well?
I am dusty.
It is dusty.
It's very dusty.
But we don't even have to take you behind the curtain. Yeah, it's dusty out there. Also a bit wet. We've got some rain.
Yes, I'm kind of hoping for some like a drizzle. I don't want anything intense. You know what happens when it gets intense. So I'm hoping for like a drizzle just to break the humidity, break the dust.
Yeah.
But you know what's interesting? When you look out, I mean, you having grown up in the UK, me having grown up in New Zealand, it looks like a winter's day, doesn't it? Like an overcast winter's day.
Last night, it was cloudy. I looked out. I thought, it's cold out there.
Yeah.
I took my book outside, sat down. I was like, it's not cold
It is
out
not
here.
cold. It is the opposite of cold.
It was pleasant though, sitting and reading outside. I did it for an hour, which
nice.
is, I mean, it was sweaty and dusty, but it was cloudy as well. So hit all three.
Is it? Are you reading what you're going to be recommending to us later?
Well, let's not get into some spoilers or teasers for the good format point there. Well done.
Have you been watching the Olympics?
Very much so. I am. Should we kick off with Olympics talk, or do we want to talk about House of the Dragon?
No, I think that is. I just want to talk about. We'll talk about Olympics later because I had one point I wanted to make. But I think we'll kick off with what's sort of been trending online.
It's everywhere.
Everywhere. And it's what you watched last night.
I watched it last night. You watched it yesterday.
Yesterday morning because I had to write about it. Or wanted to write about it.
Had to. Oh, poor man.
So House of the Dragons.
Yeah.
House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragons. So it was the finale, 8th episode, season 2. It's done. It's been trending. Initial thoughts.
Initial thoughts. Should we just do a quick listen? If you haven't watched House of the Dragon, maybe just skip forward 5 minutes.
Exactly.
See if we're still talking about House of the Dragon.
Because we will be talking about spoilers.
But we won't go too spoiler heavy. What were my initial thoughts? My initial thoughts were, it's epic, but what a slow burn, man.
Yeah. It's epic, but not in the House of Dragon, Game of Thrones way we expect an ending, a last episode to be.
Yeah.
So yeah, but a slow burn for sure.
I think the review I've read that I agree with the most is that if that finale episode had been the penultimate episode, it would have been the potential to be the best closing. So the finale that we just watched yesterday.
Yes. If it was the what episode?
If that had been the second to last episode.
Oh, yes.
It would have been phenomenal because it would have just been like everything. Because
accumulating.
Okay, this is now a bit of a spoiler. All the parts are in place for something enormous, epic, huge battle. So that makes me think that season 3 is just going to be, I mean, they've just laid the groundwork for this big war. That's literally all that's been happening all season.
Part of me thinks that maybe they're being so overly cautious with like taking the criticism from Game of Thrones because it feels like towards the end of, as everybody knows, the drama of the last season of Game of Thrones, it was so rushed. There were too much happening, not enough like characters being fleshed out. And I feel like they're trying to be very cautious and showing us exactly how each character is unraveling or changing. And maybe they took it a little bit too far with the finale.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah.
It just really, ultimately, not very much happened in that whole season. I don't mind a slow burn.
Neither do I.
And I do quite like a pretty indulgent TV show, and like they're really like that show is beautiful. Like the cinematography, it takes you to so many different destinations. And for Game of Thrones fans, there's some like nostalgia, like when you go to kind of like the different, quite familiar sets. And then just for kind of travel fans, you're like, oh, is that Scotland? Is that Croatia? Like, where are we? I love that. Are we in Iceland here? And then there was like a lot of winter is coming, like those kind of like buzzwords from the Game of Thrones universe. I liked, But it just, that was that.
I wanted something at the end to be like, because we're not going to watch it for another like potentially 2 years. There's no official date of when the show's coming up, but it's been 2 years between seasons. And I wanted something to like really keep us like hungry for it. Because now it's like,
yeah, halfway through the season, so this is another ding ding spoiler. There was the very epic episode with the dragons.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
If this is like setting the tone for how big this is going to be, these like enormous, like, I don't particularly like blood and gore, but like those battles that were going to be like dragon battles, that's like so distant from anything that could be like human that doesn't like alarm me. I was like, this is amazing. And even my brother messaged me. He's like, I love dragons. It's like, this is like a 33-year-old man. I love dragons. I was like, me too. But no.
At least I was hoping for, and I forget her name, shocker, the one who's looking for the dragon, the young lady who's in the countryside looking for the dragon. You know who I'm talking about, right?
So one of Damon's daughters.
Yes, one of Damon's daughters. I thought like it would at least end with her capturing that, or, you know, claiming a dragon for herself. I thought that would be at least something. But
she encountered a dragon.
She saw it, she was going up to it, but then...
But we don't know anything. There's no
we don't.
I think maybe that's my worry with like a lot of it. There wasn't very much resolution.
No. But you know what's interesting, for those people who don't know, that the House of Dragon is based on the book, the Blood and Fire. And it's technically not a novel. It's like a book that George R.R. Martin wrote that's like a historical textbook about the Targaryen family.
So that's like the same as Magical Beasts and Where to Find Them in the Harry Potter universe.
Exactly. Except that Magical Beasts is like a textbook written by one guy who is...
Scamander.
Scamander. So he wrote that book as like a professor of magical beasts. But what's interesting about the book that George R. R. Martin wrote is that nothing is specific, in that it's rumored that potentially Helena, this happened to her, but other historians believe this. So it's not a concrete history. So it gives the writers of the show a little bit of room to change things and have some...
I love that energy from George R. R. Martin to be like, this is how big the world is that I've invented. I'm going to also invent...
like schools of thought, exactly, about what happened, exactly, which is really great.
I love that.
Because even if you have read that book, you actually don't know what's going to happen in season 3. You don't know which route the showrunners are going to take in terms of which history from the history they're going to take.
So for people that are so embedded in the Game of Thrones world and the House of Dragon world, George R. R. Martin's world, that must be like really satisfying.
It is, but it's also, some purists get really annoyed about things. Like apparently I was speaking to my brother, who is one of those purists, who's read like all the books. Apparently the way that they claim dragons in the House of Dragon is not true to how they are in the books. So in the books, you don't just have these dragons in the castle and you go up and wait, try and claim it. You have to go into the forest, and it's like...
So that was something that I had questions about.
Yeah.
Because I'm obviously... No, not obviously. I'm not embedded in the world. I like it as a TV show. There's nothing obvious about that at all. I mean, an ass would be here scoffing if she was. But... I was like, so what? We just kind of stand on this balcony
and see.
Like, how do we know all the dragons hang out here?
Exactly. Well, Damien's daughter, Damon's daughter is doing what you would do, what all of the people are supposed to do who are Targaryens, which is go out and find a dragon and, suffer to claim it, as opposed to just being in the balcony and trying and...
Or they play a long game and they get eggs.
Yeah, but even if you get eggs, you might not bond. With the dragon, or even it was interesting, like Helena, who I think is such an interesting character in this season. Yeah. She has one of the most fiercest dragons, and she's a pacifist basically. She's like, I don't want to kill anyone.
Yeah,
I think she's had the most interesting trajectory in the show.
In the final episode, she was easily the most interesting character to me. I was like, whoa, you came out of left field.
Yeah, because she's not really on any side. She's on the side of like
peace,
the peace and the story, the bigger story. Do you have any predictions for season 3?
This takes, now that, so this is again, spoiler, ding, ding, ding. Now that Daemon he's with Rhaenyra.
Yeah. He's loyal to her.
Where my problem with the show is that I don't remember their names. Yeah. And they all have the same name. Everyone is called a version of Rhaenyra or Aegon.
Yeah. Or something with the D, Daenerys, Damien.
And then there was like Eric and Arik, right?
And even twins. Like the spelling of the names, Adam, double D.
Adam of Hull. So now that Daemon is definitely with Rhaenyra, I was like, I found that satisfying. Probably would be more interesting if he wasn't, but I enjoyed that they're going to kind of go into this together. I liked it when she was like, if you ever
if you ever betray me, if you ever leave me again,
if you think about doing that again, so help me.
Well, interesting you bring up that point, because I'm going to be one of those nerds. In the book, so in the book, basically, you know how there's 3, again, spoiler alert, you know how there's 3 new dragon riders?
Yep.
In the book, in the historical books, there's 4. The 4th is a woman who's like a commoner that Damon? Yes, falls in love with. And that creates a wedge after he gets back together with Rhaenyra. But since she's not even written in season 2, I'm wondering whether the writers are going to be like, no, we want to keep them together, or we'll find some other wedge, or she shows up in season... This is not technically not a spoiler for season 3, because we don't know what they're going to do. But I do think that Damon's too much of a strong, fiery character to just be like, okay, cool, like I'm going to get along to go
Although
along.
his hallucinations have kind of got him on the straight and narrow. He has been not well while he's been on his little jaunt by himself,
and
he's been
Harrenhal.
kind of haunted by his brother, and also just like his conscience. So
I love that scene though when he put his hand on the tree and we saw clips from Game of Thrones and him seeing what's going to happen, and then like realizing that there's a bigger war to fight. I thought that was really cool.
Without taking us on like another very long winding road, do you think the witch is real?
Oh, what's her name? Alice with a Y.
That he talks to.
Yeah.
No one else has ever acknowledged her. I saw it as an internet theory, and then now that I'm watching it, I'm like, is that could be a thing, because no one else ever speaks to her.
Potentially, but I think she might be real, because I know something that happens in the book with her. But then even now that I'm thinking, maybe she's not really even there in the book. But yeah, this is a very good point.
And as one other final point, I just want to say that my favorite character in the whole show is Sir Simon, because the guy that is with Damon, who just gives him sass, and he's always wearing velvet, and I'm just a big fan.
Yeah, he's great.
Is he going to turn out to be a real baddie?
No.
Okay, good.
I don't think so anyway, but yeah, but who knows? But yeah, great show. So to another great show.
Oh, seamless.
Another global phenomenon.
The greatest show, I think you could say.
Yes, potentially in the world, Olympics.
The Olympics.
You've been watching?
Yeah, I have. I'm in.
You're in?
It's predictable. I do every 4 years. Every 4 years, I become interested in sport. Become an absolute expert in gymnastics and obsessed with dressage. I have been watching. I've been very into it. I've been into some of the very inspirational stories that have been coming out of the games. The athletes that have kind of shook things up a little bit.
Yes.
Yeah.
I found myself interested in like a really niche thing, which is the surfing, which is not even happening in Paris. It's happening in Tahiti.
Which, first of all, amazing.
Yeah.
I love that there's like living on a cruise ship, surfing. What a great life.
And it's a very different vibe when you watch it. It's like very chilled, very relaxed. There's not like, so that's been interesting.
But that's what surfing brings, right?
Exactly. The surfer life. But what we're talking about to do with the Olympics and the intersection, because, I'm not a sports guy, but
Snoop Dogg.
It's shocking, right?
No, that's not what I said. I said we can talk about, no, we aren't going to talk about Snoop Dogg. Everyone's speaking about Snoop Dogg.
Yes.
But, I mean, obviously, just obsessed with everything
Snoop Dogg and Martha.
Olympics.
Yeah.
They're having a great time. But no, we're talking about the Fine Art Olympics.
The Fine Art Olympics, which people don't know about the secret history of the Olympics, that the world of arts and culture were actually part of the Olympics back in the day. I think it was in 1912 is when it first started, where they had actual categories for literature, architecture, sculpture, and like fine arts, which I think is really interesting. Yeah.
And it ran until 1948.
Yes.
So there were these kind of like artistic categories at the Olympics and then there's examples of athletes who were there and kind of competing in sports and then coming back 20 years later as architects.
Yes.
To be like, hey, look at me, I'm still top of my game.
I think it's because the reason why it started was because it was sort of like to show the best, because in sports, you're sort of in the prime of your life, competing, winning against other people, other athletes. And the whole point was to show like the best of every single kind of thing that a human individual can do, whether it's sports and art or whatever. But I think what made it a bit complicated is that because the arts are more subjective and they're harder to judge. And so at one point they tried to make all the arts following under a theme of within sports. to make it sort of more like cohesive with the whole Olympics.
Okay, that makes sense.
But at the same time, I guess it depends. It's not as black and white as sports, as in, oh, like, to be very like basic here, this person won the race by 3 seconds. You know, we can't argue about who the winner is there.
But exactly, so that still is happening though, because like, yeah, to judge an artistic competition, like you said, so subjective.
It's more
but
nuanced,
even at the 2024 games, there's like the 100-meter sprint that happened on Sunday night, which is like, obviously that is just like the fastest race there is. Like it's like nothing but speed. It's run in like less than 10 seconds. It's the race that Usain Bolt was like very famously like set the time record for, the world record for. And in that race, there were 2 runners that crossed the finish line at the exact same time. And there was a really long wait for how long it was gonna, like, for who came first.
They'd have to look at footage and stuff.
And it was, so it came down to, and it was, because this is why that kind of objectiveness is so important, because it was a Jamaican runner and an American runner called Noah Lyle, I think is his name. I hope I've got that right. And he crossed the finish line, exactly the same time as his competitor, like down to like millionth of a second. But it was to do with the Jamaican runner's head went over first, but the American runner's torso went over first, and they measure from torso. So everyone's like, no, clearly the Jamaican runner won. The Jamaican runner won. Like, if you're like everyone, this is what I do love and hate about human nature. Like, we all become experts in this every 4 years. And everyone's
Thank you, internet.
He crossed the line first. He crossed the line first. And it's like, no, because the actual rules of this race are, it's like when the torso, the chest goes over first. And so that meant the American got the gold. And that was the...
That's so interesting. Imagine if we didn't have video footage, like back in the day, how would they have...
They just, I guess, had to hope that people were
flip a coin.
Slow enough that they could see it with the human eye. Because the human eye can't do any of this anymore.
No. And what's interesting is that even though technically the reason why they stopped having the arts section in the Olympics is because it was too complicated or too difficult to judge. They stopped that in 1948. But I mean, since then, arts is really part of the Olympics in different ways. Like if we look at the opening ceremony, it's a way to really show off all aspects of like performance arts and, you know, art, graphic design, the uniforms of the athletes has become so much part of the lore of the Olympics as well. So it's embedded in a different way. Yeah,
it's definitely. So when this episode comes out, it's going to be towards the end of the Olympics finish on Sunday.
Yeah.
So there's like still a lot more to happen this week and a lot of exciting sports left to come, but it is like going to start winding down, and we're kind of looking forward to the closing ceremony, which from what I've read is going to be a very different tone to the opening ceremony, in like kind of a lot more reflective and somber, rather than the kind of like all out just Paris as a stage celebration.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of the opening ceremony because I guess the weather didn't help, but I was expecting more Cirque du Soleil, Cirque du Soleil type vibe, but it didn't give that.
I kind of loved it because it showed off Paris, and like, I think if you were, so say you and I had gone and spent I've read that people were spending like thousands of euros on these tickets to watch the opening ceremony. You're like, well, what did you watch?
Exactly.
Did you watch a bunch of athletes go down the Seine on a boat?
And you were just in one part of the Seine?
Part of it? Or because I guess I can't claim to be an expert on every opening ceremony, but I really vividly remember the London opening ceremony, and it was in the O2. So it was very much a space. Like you were there watching it. You happen to get the Spice Girls. Obviously, that's everybody's highlight from that event. And also James Bond, the fake queen skydiving into the venue. Like, what? What a great time. What a spectacle. But if you were watching it as like a spectator in Paris, that would have been quite disappointing, I think. But to watch it as a person on television,
TV, it was easier.
You got everything. And Paris really was the stage for it.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
It'll be interesting to see what they do at the closing ceremony. And there have been rumors that Tom Cruise is going to be doing something, which is so random. But
I guess so much of the, like, as well, like the things with Snoop Dogg and a lot of the conversation is handing it all over to LA because that's where the next one is taking place.
Ah, that makes sense.
If Tom Cruise comes in and does something big and dramatic, it kind of takes it from Paris and takes it to LA, like Hollywood.
Yeah, because I was thinking, why was Lady Gaga in the opening? I really didn't get that connection, but maybe because, you know, she's kind of Hollywood and stuff.
Even, I guess Celine Dion's because she's French-Canadian.
French-Canadian, yeah. Hopefully, maybe she'll sing something at the closing. That would be epic as well.
Yeah. Another thing I've seen that's kind of like semi-arts related at the Olympics this year that I like is, I don't know if you've noticed, have you been watching any of the athletics?
No. I mean, I've seen clips.
So in that stadium, there's a bell that people are ringing when they win gold. And that's a new thing as far as I know. That's not like, because I was like, oh, maybe that's like an old Olympic tradition, but it's a bell that's going to go into Notre Dame.
Oh, cool. Okay. Interesting.
So everyone's like ringing it. And the bells, the Notre Dame's bells have only rang twice since the fire, which is on the anniversary of the fire, and also to commemorate Jacques Chirac, the former French president's life when he died.
That's so interesting.
The bell is going to go into the...
So that's very cool. If you ring the bell and it's eventually going to go up there, you can say that I rung the bell.
And if you won gold in Paris, and then you're... Yeah,
you're part of history.
Part of French history.
Yeah. So, no, I'm kidding. Jazz hands. So, you have watched the movie everyone's talking about.
I have.
Deadpool, what is it?
Deadpool and Wolverine. Not Versus.
And
I thought it was Versus for a long time.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
oh, yeah.
But it's not.
I mean, I was calling it Deadpool and Werewolf for ages because I
run with it.
Don't understand the world. But yeah,
I'm calling it Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman.
It is really that Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman show. I mean, yeah.
It is. It's a celebration of their friendship, which has just been put into a film, which is, you know, cute. So I have seen it.
Can you tell me in like elevator pitch, what is it actually about?
Okay. I'm not a complete Marvel buff.
Yeah.
Circling back to when I was not a complete Game of Thrones buff. Basically,
it's a standalone movie though, right? You don't have to have seen...
No, you don't have to. I think some context is good, but basically it's he's a character in the MCU. And Wolverine is an X-Men.
Yeah.
Or is he an X-Man? What do we call...
I think
what's the plural there?
Yeah, you're
singular.
right. X-Men's.
And he... basically, it's about the character Deadpool trying to save his universe, and he needs to bring Wolverine in to do that.
Okay.
Deadpool is a kind of like, I was going to say naughty, which is not the right word. He's a dark horse superhero, and he really wants to be an Avenger, but the Avengers are obviously like superheroes, and he's just not an Avenger. And so that's like a lot of his character.
And the vibe I get from him is that he's like a very let's break the fourth wall type humor.
Yeah, it's basically a Fleabag met the Avengers. He does, there's a lot of, I think maybe this is like projecting because we obviously don't actually know Ryan Reynolds, but it feels like a lot of his personality and his humor comes across when he's breaking the fourth wall. He makes a lot of sarcastic comments about Disney and Fox, and he'll like say something quite risque and be like, haha, bet Disney didn't ever think that was going to happen. Because obviously Disney now owns Marvel. So this is not an elevator pitch at all. This has gone on for like a Burj Khalifa length elevator. But it's good. It's quirky. It's funny. Sometimes it feels, to me, somebody who's not super embedded in it, a bit self-indulgent. But it's funny. It's definitely, I laughed out loud quite a lot.
I mean, that's how I feel about the general Marvel universe. Because I watched all the X-Men. I watched like the Avengers ones and Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. But then at some point it felt like there were so many inside jokes and so many like references to other things that I was just like, yeah, I'm lost. Like I need to watch everything and nobody's got time.
That brings us perfectly to what I'd like to talk about. Thank you so much. So like a big thing obviously in the Marvel canon is the post-credit scene.
The secret scenes.
Yeah. So people stick around in the cinema to watch these secret scenes. And they're in this is the kind of towards the final scene of the actual film. Deadpool and Wolverine, there's obviously been a battle. That's not a big spoiler because there's battles in everything. They're sitting down and they have a shawarma. No, they say, I've got the words. He's like, Deadpool suggests going to get a shawarma, and Wolverine's like, I could eat. And then Deadpool turns around with the shawarma when they're like sitting outside, and he's like, the Avengers discovered shawarma. And that, I would like to say, is not true.
It's not true. What? It's not true.
We're claiming that. Yeah. But there's like a big kind of like shawarma-related world in the Avengers.
Yeah, I looked it up a little bit, and from what I understand is at the end of one of the big battles in one of the other Avenger movies, Robert Downey Jr.'s character, Iron Man, sees like a shawarma place, like, let's go have shawarma after. I think it's called Shawarma Palace.
So he's like lying on the ground post-battle, and he's like, have you ever tried shawarma? There's a shawarma joint 2 blocks from here. I want to try it. And then that's towards the end of the film. And then their post-credit scene is the 6 Avengers sitting in this shawarma restaurant eating. And like the restaurant is like wrecked. There's like a person in the background like sweeping up and stuff like that. And so there's like a whole little world of Avengers and shawarma.
So I have 2 theories about this.
Please.
Theory number 1 is that when they do these takes, these films, and these specific scenes, they'll get them to say whatever is on their mind. Like they'll do like 5 scenes. Do you feel like a banana? Do you feel like a smoothie? Do you feel like an avocado? Do you feel like a shawarma? Oh, that's the funniest. Let's use that. And because maybe like it picked up some like something online that they were like, they're bringing it back. I feel like that could potentially happen. Yeah. But also, have you ever had a shawarma after a big night out? It's like the best thing, right? You've been out all night and you go to a shawarma place and you just eat and you relax. So part of me thinks like maybe Robert Downey Jr. or somebody has been to the Middle East.
And they just know.
And they just know after a big, long night of doing whatever, you just want a shawarma at like a random street food place.
Probably a nice combination of both. I read that it was like Robert Downey Jr. didn't find part of the script funny enough, and they didn't have a post-credit scene ready. So it kind of was like a marriage of both of those parts. But the
that feels like a very Robert Downey Jr. thing to do. This is not funny enough. I'm just going to make it funnier. Yeah.
Hey, I don't know the man, but he definitely comes in with that energy, right?
He's coming back,
Yeah, I know, but I don't know enough about it.
I don't know enough about it, but I know it's a big deal.
Everyone's like, hey, you died.
But he's coming back as a different character.
And now you're a baddie?
Yeah, exactly. It makes no sense.
Confusing. Yeah. But I think also like it's obviously we have shawarma here. It's very regional, but it's like a huge Arabic community in the US, and they sell shawarma.
Yeah.
It was I was reading about the Avengers effect on shawarmas in the US because they haven't affected them here. Like maybe apart from the price, but they've always been a very a culinary staple. But according to TMZ, which is where I go for more news than I should,
information, yeah.
Roro's Chicken, a famous Lebanese joint in Hollywood, the manager said that the sales of shawarma jumped up 80% in the days after the Avengers opened in 2012. And so that's 80% just based on an end
one
credit.
Line. Yeah, just one line.
And then in New York, the opposite side of the US, a man called Farah Zaida, who had a popular shawarma and falafel food court in Queens, said that following the movie's debut, he was selling out of shawarmas by the early afternoon. He had always had a steady customer count before then, but people came out of nowhere following the Avengers.
Just shows like shawarma representation in the media is very important for small businesses.
This is what I'm getting at. Like the small businesses benefited from the Avengers and their shawarmas.
But I would love to know why they put that in there. I mean, it's interesting. It's like there's this story about when Clark Gable in the movie It Happened One Night took his shirt off and he wasn't wearing an undershirt. You know what an undershirt is? After then, men apparently in America stopped wearing undershirts. And that's why now men just wear T-shirts without an undershirt underneath. That's like the lore behind that, and it's interesting because you'll never know the truth.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's the same with this. We'll never know the truth of why they put the shawarma in, and whether there's a correlation between that and shawarma businesses booming.
That is interesting. There's a little quirks in the way that culture does affect, or like arts and culture kind of do have an effect on.
There's also a pyramid scene, right?
Yes.
So
it's nothing like, just if you can completely ignore have you been to Cairo?
When I was really young. So,
I've never actually been.
Oh, right. Oh, I thought you would have been.
No, I've not been. But completely ignore what the kind of like where they actually are situated, because they're very much kind of like Plankton desert, a desert landscape. So it doesn't look anything like the real kind of like Cairo pyramid situation. But it is also a slightly, if my memory serves me correctly, because I was not making notes when I watched this film, it's a bit dystopian and it's a bit Mad Maxy.
Right, okay.
So it isn't meant to be like, hi, we're in
We're
Cairo.
going to the pyramid.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
So but it's that's if I'm remembering correctly. But the film is. Would you go see it? Are you likely to go see it?
No, I would go see it. I would go see it, especially that it's like I don't have to see a whole bunch of other movies. If I can just go and enjoy it, that's good.
Yeah.
Then yeah, I would go see it. But just taking me to the cinema is it's a mission. I feel like now if I can just watch it on Netflix.
Oh no, I love going to the cinema. Especially
Yeah.
this time of year. There's like nothing else to do on a Saturday.
You know, I went to the cinema in the weekend to Cinema Akil. They have a great summer program of old films, and I watched Four Weddings and a Funeral.
I'm going this weekend.
You are? Honestly, it was so fun to watch it in the cinema. And what's cool is that everybody that was in the audience have obviously seen the film before. And so everyone's laughing in the same bits that are going to come up that are funny. You know, it was a nice experience.
Yeah, I'm going on Sunday.
Yes, I went on Sunday as well. It was really fun. And it's just so great. That movie it's a classic. And I don't think it gets the recognition it deserves of what a like game changer it was and how advanced ahead of its time it was.
I don't agree at all. I think it's like completely cited. I mean, I love it. No, I mean, I don't agree that it doesn't get the recognition. I think it's like frequently cited as like the perfect rom-com.
I mean, it doesn't get recognition for how, I keep saying advanced, but how ahead of its time it is. Progressive in that it's very diverse in terms of you have somebody that is, has hearing. His brother that can't hear. He definitely has someone doing sign language. The main character is a man who wants to fall in love and be married. Rom-coms aren't really always about it. Always about the woman who wants to be in love. And I like that flip. And just the dialogue is really great. The comedy is really good. It's one of my favorite films of all time. I'm excited that you've seen it before, but I'm excited you're going to have the same experience.
But that isn't even your recommendation of the week.
No, it isn't. It should have been.
Would you like to tell us what you're recommending this week?
Yes. My recommendation is Kevin Kwan's new book, Lies and Weddings. And if you don't know Kevin Kwan, you definitely know Crazy Rich Asians, which is the huge rom-com that was like a big blockbuster. But he wrote the novel for it. He's written a bunch within the Crazy Rich Asians world. This is the latest one, Lies and Weddings, and it is about Rufus Lewing Grisham, who is the future Earl of Greshambury, and he's also the son of a former Hong Kong supermodel. Great combination.
Amazing.
And however, despite being handsome and has this title, he's drowning in debt. And so his mother's like, you know what we need to do? You need to marry a rich woman. Your sister's getting married. There's going to be lots of rich people there.
Go find someone rich.
Goes to find someone rich. And he's sort of like entertaining all of these like rich women who could potentially save his family. But and this is not a spoiler alert, it's all in the blurb. He's secretly in love with his best friend, who's just like this wholesome girl next door.
A normal gal.
Just a normal gal, doesn't have millions to her name. And so he's kind of torn between, do I do what's right for my family or do I follow my heart? And in the middle of all this, there is a volcano interrupting this wedding.
Oh.
So, yeah, literal volcano interrupting this wedding. So I like that. It's very Joe's Volcano. Is that the movie that I'm thinking of? Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan's. You know what? We will look it up, and next week I will redeem myself and
Correct
let you guys
yourself,
know.
But the Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan canon is a real favorite of mine. The fact that I haven't seen a secret film about volcanoes.
They're in a tropical island and a volcano erupts. Yes, there is. Anyway,
we'll come back to that.
We will figure it out.
And I will have watched it by this time next week because it sounds right on my street.
It's a great film. Your recommendation?
My recommendation is another book. I have not been so prepared as man to bring my book with me, but it's called Love Letters to a Serial Killer. How my shit does that sound?
How is that so on brand for you?
I was like,
love letters, beautiful to a serial killer.
Why did I not write it? By Tasha Coriel. It's
Fiction?
Phenomenal. Yeah, fiction. It's about I'm not going to give too much away, but it's basically about a woman who she's single, and then there's separately a serial killer who has been killing women after like Tinder Bumble dating app dates. And so she, single, decides to write to him and give him a piece of her mind. And then she starts to quite like writing to him.
I was going to say, from enemies to lovers, but it sounds like from...
And then she's like, wait, are you guilty? And so that's the kind of trajectory of this book. And have you finished that book?
No, I'm like a quarter way in.
Yeah, I'm similar. So I'm loving it and very, very much enjoying it. I'm just very, very quickly going to say that I spent some time on a beach recently and I burnt through about 3 Emily Henry books.
Oh,
are you familiar?
Yes, of course. It's wonderful.
And Funny Story was my highlight of those. And I recommend that to absolutely everybody, just if you want to read a book in like a day.
Which one?
Funny Story.
Funny Story, yeah.
Have you read that one?
I haven't, but I've heard of it.
Read it in a day. It's wonderful. It's candy floss for the brain.
But back to your love stories to serial killers, just quickly, I want to say, like, that's a big phenomenon happening in America. I think there's a documentary about it, about women who write letters and create relationships with these people on death row.
There's a person
that I
follow on social media a woman that I follow on social media that has done that, and I'm fascinated by it. Obviously, because I love true crime.
Yeah, it's
the truest of true crime.
Yeah. It's an interesting phenomena.
Well, that is it for today. Thank you very much for listening. If you like this episode, please follow and subscribe on your choice of podcasting app.
And don't forget to follow us on social media and tell all your friends and family about it. Bye.
Bye.